things that we do is award funding for small grants to support research to address identified gaps in knowledge and also to improve the knowledge base in areas of new challenge or in changing policy and practice. This year, our competition is focusing specifically on understanding violence, abuse and mental health, and we've identified several key issues for research and 3 main questions. These are outlined in the call specification in the application pack, which you can find on our website, but I'll just highlight them quickly here also. Our key questions are: what are common sources of harm in the interconnected systems encountered by victims and survivors of violence and abuse? This is a question that came through really strongly as a survivor consultation of the network in year 1. We're also interested to find out and their relationships to mental health problems and to understand more about which factors are protective against violence, abuse and mental health problems across the life course, disaggregated by gender, and which could be potential targets for intervention. Now, funding is available for up to a maximum of 20% cost, and you can use it to deliver a targeted piece of work or to pump prime larger projects. And we've got details of all the projects that we funded last year on our website, so do take a look at that to see what we funded in the past. We know that people have been under so much pressure as a result of the COVID-19 crisis this year, and because of this we moved the application deadline back. But there's actually not that long to go now. It's nonetheless come around really quickly. Applications should be in, please, by the 11th of December. You can get full details of the call on our website, and also on the website is the application pack and the budget form. Within that application pack, we have answers to frequently asked questions. And thanks for putting the details in the chat there, Helen, that's great. So there's some frequently asked questions available in the application pack. We also update our website regularly with answers to new questions as these come through. But we've held some time today as well to go through some of the questions that you submitted. So we've had questions come through together, and I'm going to address these first. But please, if you have further questions or new questions, do type these into the chat box, and any that we don't get through today, we'll respond to after the meeting. So first of all, we had a question about how best to prepare for the grant competition. Really, I would encourage you, first of all, to carefully read the application pack and make sure that you're really clear about the scope of the call and the call requirements. And if you've got specific questions that aren't addressed within the frequently asked questions document, or if our answers to those don't make sense to you, please do get in touch with us and we'll do our best to help you. This is a single stage competition, so you won't, for example, be provided with reviewer feedback and invited to respond to it, and we won't ask you to take part in an interview. I always recommend that people seek informal peer review from their colleagues, for example, within your university department, in good time before submitting an application as part of the preparation work, so please do think about doing that. Secondly, we were asked about the inclusion of multiple academic partners, and specifically whether including a second academic institution would strengthen the research bid. So when assessing applications, we'll really be looking at the strength of the research team and the extent to which it's multidisciplinary, rather than looking, for example, at the number of academic institutions involved. But if you think that there are gaps in your research team that are best addressed by bringing another academic partner on board, then it might be sensible to add another institution in. Thirdly, we were asked whether the network could support grant awardees with applications for research approval, in particular with applications to the National Research Council for Prison Research. Unfortunately, we're unable to provide research assistant time to help the development or conduct of funded projects. So I think this is an instance where we wouldn't be able to provide support to do that. And fourthly, we had a question about whether projects could focus on one system of potential harm rather than on all systems potentially encountered by victims and survivors. So that's a question really about one of those 3 main questions that we set out in the scoping document. And I'd say that assuming an appropriate justification is provided for the focus of the study, then this would be acceptable. So those are the questions that I've had through via Eventbrite. I haven't got any more questions flashing up yet in the chat box, but I'm just going to pause for a couple of minutes so that you can type those through. Yeah. This is now really difficult because I've got multiple questions coming through and I'm trying to read them in the right order. So the first question, how long will the award be funded for? As in, is there a maximum amount of time that the project has to be completed in? Yeah, there is. So all projects need to be completed within 12 months. Luna, you've asked co-production is important. I think I read. Can you tell me what level most successful applications achieve? So yeah, we do really put a strong emphasis on co-production. The grants are going to vary in terms of what they set out to do. You can see details of the projects that we've funded on our website, as I mentioned, and so I'd encourage you to have a look at those. What I would really like to emphasize around co-production is that we really insist that it is appropriately costed. We have put links in the frequently asked questions document and the application pack around what we want to see on lived experience involvement, and some links to guidance around appropriate level of payment. So we really would stress to you that any involvement needs to be appropriately compensated. Ideally, we would be looking for we would be seeing the strongest applications as having had survivor and lived experience involvement from the earliest stages of the application. I hope that answers the question. Does the principal investigator have to be based in an academic institution, or can it be a charity / not-for-profit that commissions academics? So unfortunately, the principal investigator does have to be based at a UK higher education institution or a ESRC independent research organisation. This is part of the funding rules that we have to abide by as a consequence of our own funding. We do strongly welcome the co-applications from non-academic institutions. So although we would have to transfer the funding to a UK higher education institute, so they would have to be the lead organisation that would then administer the funding, we do encourage the meaningful involvement, including as co-applicants, of non-academic institutions. Third sector organisations are able to claim their costs at 100% rather than at 80%, but again, because of UKRI funding regulations, the total funding that can go to non-academic partners is capped at 30% of the total research value. And again, similar to the point around appropriately costing lived experience involvement, we really do need to see also that there is appropriate costing of the time of third sector institutions. Charlie Marie, is the research only for those attending university at present? I'm looking to apply for a PhD as soon as possible. So again, I think this is similar to the point previously, that unfortunately we would need the principal investigator to be based at a UK higher education institution and to have a contract that outlasted the project. Amina, are you accepting systematic reviews of the literature as opposed to empirical data collection? Systematic reviews would be in scope. So you don't need to be proposing empirical data collection. Is a project which is focusing on secondary data analysis suitable, or would it also need a PPI element? So secondary data analyses would also be in scope. We would be looking for lived experience involvement really within all applications is something that we strongly recommend. So you might be thinking about, in relation to secondary data analysis, whether having lived experience involvement in the identification of research questions would be helpful. You might be thinking about lived experience involvement, for example, in the interpretation of findings. Claire, does the 30% cap apply to independent consultant co-applications? Claire, if I'm absolutely honest, I would need to check back on that because I don't want to give you the wrong information unless my colleague Helen can speak to that point if she knows off the top of her head now.
I'm not 100% sure. I'm assuming if it's somebody who isn't based at a higher education institution, then the 30% cap would still apply. But yeah, I think best to double check on the guidance for that. Yeah. I'll have a look while we're chatting and then put it in the chat.
Thank you. That's great. Just waiting for more questions to come through. Okay, we have the lead applicant is at a UK higher education institute. Can we have co-applicants from overseas? And my understanding on that is not.
Sian, I think actually they are allowed to have co-applicants from overseas. I have seen this question in the FAQs.
Have you? Okay, sorry.
Sorry, I'm pretty sure, but always worth checking the guidance, I think we should say, but I'm pretty sure that you can have co-applicants from overseas.
Okay, thanks, Louise. And is it possible to apply for a grant of substantially less than £25,000, or is that the sort of size of project that you're looking for at this stage? No, you're welcome to apply for projects up to £25,000. Oh, sorry, people are telling me that I missed an earlier question. Can we apply to cover the cost of an ongoing study or seed study from a larger one? Helen, would you be able to pick that up, please?
So I think it depends. I mean, I think here we're trying to focus on a very specific, wanting to focus on a specific question that meets the remit of the call. So it could be, so you could use that to fund cost of an ongoing study if the costs were going to be used to answer a very specific question related to this call. So for instance, you might be working on a cohort study or something else, and the funds might cover the cost to pay for research time to do analysis on existing data in that cohort, to answer a question that fits around understanding violence, abuse and mental health in this call. But we would expect delivery, of the output of analysis or the project you're doing, kind of, at least by the end of the 12-month period. So what we wouldn't expect is for you to put in costs and you're not actually going to publish anything or create any deliverables for another 5 years or something like that. We would expect it to be a discrete piece of work that could be part of another study. I hope that makes sense.
Thanks, Helen. I'm slightly worried now that I've missed another question because they're kind of coming down. I'm just trying to scroll through to see if there's anything that I've missed. I can't see anything else. Sorry, Antoinette, no. So yeah, I perhaps wasn't clear on that. Yes, it is possible to apply for a grant smaller than £25,000. So we're accepting grants up to a total of £25,000 at 80% full economic cost, but you're welcome to apply to smaller projects than that.
Sian, it's Louise here. I wonder if Antoinette is also asking specifically about the size of the project we're looking for, and the concern that she's raising that maybe if it's a smaller amount that it would be not the right size, but there is no right size, Antoinette. You can apply for any amount of money that's less than 25 and any size of project. We would be very keen to apply to a variety of sizes of projects.
Thanks. Tina, can we apply with a faculty member of the HEI as part of a PhD research project? I might just need a bit more context on what the question is here, Tina. We're not able to fund PhD projects through this call. I'm not sure if that's the question. If third sector organisations are coordinating the lived experience involvement, would lived experience costs be included within the 30% cap? Wow, that's that question makes my head hurt. I might need to think that through.
So I think it depends how you're costing. I think if the costs are for the time of people involved that's paid through the university, that wouldn't be in the 30% cap. But if you're costing people as investigators and the money is going to go from the university to the actual third sector organisation, then it would be part of that 30%. Maybe that makes life more confusing, I don't know. So I guess if the money's going to an organisation, it will be 30% capped. If it's going, if you're paying individual participants or people participating, then you could include that within the university part of the budget. Maybe Sian, you clarify that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, that makes sense to me. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. So it's kind of, it depends on who that pot of money is sitting with. So if that money would be being transferred to the third sector organisation as part of their pot of money that they're receiving as part of this project, it would be subject to the 30% cap. But if the third sector organisation are administering the funds, or kind of coordinating the funds, but the money is being held by the university, it would remain with the university's budget.
Yeah, so things like, I think that was just put in about if we're hiring a room or paying, I guess in the current times, for a Zoom account, and the university was paying for that through their part of the funds, that would be in their part of the budget, if you like, and the university might pay specific participants or other people to participate that have lived experience. But if an actual third sector organisation is actually going to be involved and understandably coordinating, we want to pay someone employed by that organisation, that would be part of the 30% cap because the money would go to that organisation.
Ravi, follow-up question from Ravi. If there are 2 third sector partners, then do they get capped at 30% each or split up to a maximum of 30%? So it's the latter there. So the total amount that can go to third sector organisations is capped at 30% of the total grant value. Should the project start immediately, or could it take place, say, between May and October? Does 12 months start when the project starts and when notice of acceptance is issued? So I think we do have in our terms of reference the latest possible start date. I'm just trying to find what that is. Obviously, I can't quickly find that. Thanks, PJ. Yeah, so, but just to say the 12-month deadline commences when the project starts. Okay. I'm conscious that I think there may be a couple of questions that have been missed. We do have a record of all of them, and we will make sure that we respond to all of them. We're going to have to do that outside of the meeting now because we have run over time, and I want to make sure that we can cover all parts of the agenda. So thank you so much for sending all of those questions through. It's really helpful for us to be able to look at where we need to clarify things further and where we need to add additional information to our website. So we'll do that, and we'll also, as I say, make sure that we communicate with you about any other questions that have gone unanswered today.